All right, today we are doing a transmission swap. Another one of those lovely things. This is on a 1986 Ford Ranger 2.9 liter V6 automatic four-wheel drive. Step one, take your positive battery terminal, loosen it up, pull it off, disconnect your battery. That way you're not fighting with arcs and all that fun stuff when you're pulling your starter loose. And this is a task best done on a lift. You can do it on the ground, but it is a royal pain in the ass. Just fighting jack stands, and then once you get the transmission out, after fighting with it while you're on the ground, getting it out from underneath the truck, fighting with more jack stands and keeping them from falling over while you're trying to jack up the truck to make room to pull the bell housing out from under the frame. Just it's a pain. You can do it, but it's dangerous and it's a pain in the ass. If you have access to a lift, just put it on a lift. Do it on a lift. Or if you're apprehensive about trying it on the ground, don't want to crush yourself, take it and have somebody do it that has a lift. Because it's just, I mean, these things are heavy. You get underneath it, when it decides to go ahead and let loose and drop, it can crush you. Oh, yep, hit the button right when the dang truck was passing by. But to remove one of these transmissions, put another one back in, you're just going to need basic tools for the most part. And we'll go over the other little special tools that you'll need besides just your basic ratchet set. And if you want to get fancy, you can use an impact to break some of the bigger stuff loose. But just basic, 3/8 drive stuff. You don't even need to get the big 1/2 inch stuff. And 1/4 inch for the most part. You'll need a 12 millimeter wrench box end for those 4 bolts right there to hold the rear portion of the drive shaft to the rear differential. Possibly there, depending on where you want to break it loose. Other than that, I mean, you're just pretty much going to be using sockets and whatnot. But it does help just to have a full-on barrage of wrenches and different tools and implements to whack stuff with available. A good light, a couple of hammers. You're going to probably need a hammer to bust either one of the flanges loose from its connection once you get the 4 fasteners loose. You'll likely need a larger wrench to put as a backer on the 12 millimeter when you're busting those 4 bolts loose to get you some leverage. Pry bar, channel locks. Just be prepared. Line wrenches for when you bust the transmission cooler lines loose. Just that kind of stuff that's handy to have, but not absolutely necessary. It's just nice. All right, we got our locks all set. Let's go on up. Alright, looks like this is probably the likely culprit for what killed this transmission. Is this little botched patch job. Instead of replacing the line like it should have been, and it puked out all the fluid, ran dry and took out the pump. But we'll see. Just out of curiosity, I'll pull the pan and see what kind of goodies we find in there. And these older Ford transmission, the pan bolts are 13 millimeter instead of the 10 millimeter like the new ones are. And I've got them all removed, and now I'm going to try and pull the pan loose without making a total mess all over myself. And I can't do that with just one hand, so y'all bear with me. Alright, it looks really, really clean. I don't see any bits clinging to the filter pickup. don't even see any glitter in the fluid. But that is all the fluid that was in the pan. We didn't spill nothing. Let's see if I can shine some light on that. See if we can get an idea. Oh, dang it. And my light is dead. Great. What I'm trying to do. That needs to go down. That needs to go down. Flashlight. Oh, stupid thing. Alright, so that one then. Is it on? Alright, it's on. Huh. Alright. Alright. Since you got your battery disconnected up there, you ain't got to dick with your hot cable in your starter, and you can just pull your two 17mm head bolts loose from it, holding it to the bell housing, and stick it right under there, out of the way, and then you're going to be able to access your torque converter flywheel connection bolts or nuts, and those are 9/16. These are not metric. These are 9/16 hex. And you'll have to kind of walk your crank over to get to each one every 90 degrees, and you want them in about that spot, so you got a good access and a spot to kind of pry, sort of some leverage against on that plate there that's in between the transmission and the back of the motor. You bust those four loose, and then you can focus on the rest. All right, to rotate your motor, it's a lot easier to come over here to your main crank pulley and put a socket on that guy with a breaker bar. Now that bolt is 3/4 hex, and I just use a 3/8 drive with an adapter on my breaker bar, and you can look as you turn it up into the starter hole and see when your stud and nut become visible through there, and you can access it when you see it. I'm freaking horrible at this. I just get in my brain to go and do stuff, but I've got all four of the torque converter to flex plate nuts loose, and then you're going to also have to remove your shifter linkage assembly, and there's two nuts on the 86 Ranger anyway that are hooking up to these two captured bolts through the frame right over kind of next to where the starter is, and then you've got two up on the side of the transmission, so on the driver's side, right here and right here. And you want to get your linkage disconnected first so that you can access the top one, otherwise the linkage blocks that head. And then this is a manual transfer case, so we had to remove the manual transfer case lever linkage from the tail housing, and then the shifter itself. Get that loose, and then there's a connector right there. And then you've got 4 9/16 bolts, and then one 13mm 1/2 inch that is that guy right there. And then your transfer case can come loose, assuming that you have your drive shafts out. And now once you get your transfer case pop loose from the back of your tail housing, and I wiggle it a little bit, get me a little bit of space, and then I take me a pretty good wide pry bar and just be aware that you're going to have some transmission fluid dripping out of there. Maybe a bucket or something set up to catch it. A lot of times it won't be a whole lot. That's it. Transfer case is loose from the transmission on. Alright, transfer case is disconnected. Now this is nice when you have a little tray on a lift to work with. You can just stick a little jack on it and bang, it's out of the way. Inside the tail shaft there, but now we got a little bit more room to work to get our last 3 bolts loose up there on the bell housing to back of the motor. And we got, let's see if I can even see it from here. Nope. Let's see from here. barely see it. Right there, and then there's another one adjacent to it on the other side. And then there's one more in this position on the other side that's just a bitch to get to. And that's it. The transmission is physically loose from the truck at that point. Assuming that you have your cooler lines disconnected. And the upper one is a bitch to get to. So just keep that in mind. You must use line wrenches. They are 5/8 line wrenches. A lot of times you won't need a backer on it, but have one handy just in case. You don't want it to twist that the end of that tubing off if it gets bound. Yeah, moving right along. All right, now I don't like to bother with the electrical connectors and whatnot until I actually start lowering the transmission, unless they're really accessible and easy. Otherwise, you tend to snap off the clips or the connector locks, or you can break the connectors themselves just fighting with it, not being able to see. So I wait until I get, you know, some nice clearance and a good visual on the connectors before I start yanking them loose. All right, transmissionectomy complete, successful. It's down, out of the way. And again, I didn't show a whole lot of the steps because I'm busy working, and fuck y'all, because like 20 fucking people watch my videos anyway, so who the fuck cares? And nobody likes them. I'm getting sick of this bullshit. I'm gonna start just posting fucking cat videos, since that's the only thing that gets fucking attention. So maybe try sharing my shit.